Hey everyone, welcome to the Thursday, April 24th edition of Speaker Co-working. I am Ron Story, the head of membership and product at SpeakerHub. And this is our daily call that we do every day with Angela Lewis and a lot of our friends and partners and clients around the world, where we talk about how to get booked for more speaking gigs and get on more stages in order to promote more of your products and services. This is where speakers from everywhere ask questions, and we try to provide reasonable answers based on our actual experience, not based on theory. So good to see everybody, and yeah, let's get this party going, man. People coming in, it must have been traffic outside or something.
Yeah.
A little bit of traffic, now they coming in, Devin Moody. Hey, I ain't seen Devin in a long time. Devin, we was just talking about you just the other day. Good to see you. CEO
Nice
mom
collective.
herself, Devin
Yes.
Moody. I saw her dancing outside the casino.
Listen, oh my gosh, I have been trying to join for months. I'm never sitting down at this time. And so when it popped up, I keep the alert on my calendar. And I was like, I'm sitting down. Hey, good to see you.
I'm happy you are here.
I know.
Tomorrow. We'll get together tomorrow.
I know. It's because you in town that I was able to sit down and be on here, right?
Are you still in T-Rex, Devin?
Yeah, I'm in T-Rex right now. Yeah, I'm in T-Rex right now. Yeah, I just got out of a meeting and it ended early because it wasn't supposed to end till 11:30. Baby, I love a meeting that ends early. Okay, boom, we done.
I'm gonna come down tomorrow. I'm coming down to T-Rex tomorrow.
Yay! You need to come to T-Rex, and then I need to take you across the bridge. I mean, It's just an empty space, but at least you'll see where I am.
Absolutely. Okay. That's our date tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Yay.
Cool. Devin, you want to introduce yourself to everybody else?
Yeah.
Me and Andrew already know you, but they don't know you.
I know, right? So good. Look, I don't know where everybody's from. So good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Devin Moody. I'm a native of St. Louis, Illinois. I'm a business strategist for the last almost 17 years. Worked with startups in phases, startup, growth, launch, across all industries. Done everything from development, youth entrepreneurship, a big focus on helping businesses in underserved areas. Predominantly underrepresented people that look like me, so that is a big part. Recent initiative that I started, I'm super excited. I opened a space in my hometown called the 89th Collective, which is a legacy launch pad and a legacy first initiative that's not only a co-working space, but a space to create a model for community-rooted innovation. That's my first time saying it. I'm trying to look community-rooted innovation because I was trying to figure out what is this thing that I'm doing. And so it's to create this model that places that typically may not be as connected to ecosystems, we learn to build our own ecosystems and spaces and then grow them globally. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm just glad to be here this morning. Afternoon.
Didn't you have a conference in Paris? Didn't you launch events in other parts of the world? You're just gonna gloss over that?
I was supposed to speak. Yes. Look, I'm looking at the Eiffel Tower right there. But yes, out of a prayer and a dream. I remember actually it's been 6 years since I did that. So 6 years since my first international conference, which is in Paris, with my brand CEO mom. With that, we took a group of women to Paris and hosted our first walking conference, and what's so funny is people are like, oh, that was such a good idea. It was born out of being creative, and who wants to sit in a room in Paris, and budgetary restrictions, right? It was so much. So it's like a lot can be born out of creativity. From there, I went on to get connected to the Black Paris expat community, mostly creatives, and was able to take part of them honoring Josephine Baker, who was a St. Louis native, and got to meet her family. And within the Black Paris community, that was in 2021 when she was honored at the Pantheon. Fast forward when Harris Stowe State University, which is a HBCU in the St. Louis area, the only HBCU in the St. Louis area, and only 2 in the state, 2 in Missouri.
Yep.
Yeah, only 2 in the state. and was able to create a trip for both women, business owners, and also college students who studied things. And I created a curriculum around culture, arts, and commerce. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
Well, welcome aboard for the first time to Speaker Co-working here at SpeakerHub. Any wins from anybody else? Any other wins? Any new bookings since our conversation yesterday?
We got
I'll
another
be
2 books plus a speaking engagement that is potentially paid.
Oh, there it is. Wait. Ain't no potentially paid. Potentially paid up front. They all paid.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a free speech. They all paid. We just got to figure out how we gonna get paid, right?
Right.
I was on with someone sent me a text message this morning saying, "Hey, are these stats correct?" And I still remember a quote from a guy named Calvin James. He was one of the guys that I worked with when I used to have the Allstate agencies. And Calvin said, "Figures don't lie, but liars can figure."
Yeah.
And I said, that is pretty good. you know, and they give these stats: 22,000 average budget for experienced speakers, $22,000. And you're like, that's the budget for the whole event. Why are you telling people that this is the for one speaker, right? Average speaker fee for experienced speakers, 16,000. But all your products are sold to new speakers. So why are you kind of selling this false dream? And I'm like, so someone sent me a message like, yo, is this true? I'm like, if you look at the data source, you got to watch out for averages and median and mean, right? Those are different terms. They all mean something different. And the data that was given said that 48% of 48% of event planners have less than $5,000. But the thing right next to it said the average budget is $22,000. Yeah, if you stretch out the one place that got $100,000 gig, right, and you add that in, here's a great example. If Bill Gates walks into a bar, the average income in that bar is $1 billion. Bill Gates leave that bar, average income in that bar, 45,000. Right. So we got to watch out when people start saying average. You just be like, and then they only interview 300 people. I'm like, we've surveyed 3,000 people for our numbers, and they don't line up with this crap. But moral of the story is, be careful with the dream that's being sold to you. Right? If I sell you a car and it doesn't work, I have accountability for you to be able to. Lemon laws protect us. Does that make sense? If I sell you an iPhone and it doesn't work, you can take it back. Does that make sense? Be careful, because those dreams don't always have warranties.
Yep.
Somebody can sell you a dream that they're not accountable for having to make come true.
Amen.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So, be careful of that, because that's where we end up getting tricked a lot of times, is that someone sold us a dream and then they're not responsible for making it become real. Right? So any other wins? We like to show proof here at SpeakerHub, but let me say this. The reason why that stat came up is because it's one of we still do agency work sometimes. Sometimes I don't like it, but we still do it. And one of our clients, they were super excited about the speaking gigs we've been getting for them. And the same way we do this report, that we meet every month to talk about the gigs that they've gotten from our outreach. So that's a win from our side, because I know we got, I think, 4 or 5 gigs booked for one of our clients. But just be careful of these stats out here, guys, when y'all see this BS. But go ahead, Ange, what were you going to say?
Someone contacted me from the local Boys and Girls Club that I grew up playing basketball at and asked me to be on a panel in May. And I said, of course, like, because in St. Louis, I'm here quite often. So of course I'll do that. So to be on the panel, and she's like, we'll pay you. Um, and it's a couple $100s. And I'm like, oh, like you can donate that to the club. Like we don't, it's okay. Thank you. But we'll donate that to the club. But I'm going to talk to them about doing an event before that event because that starts at 11. And it's like, well, I can get there at 9 and do something else. And then she also said, well, we looked at your book and it's for middle school and high school. So y'all, I published this book in 2013. And she said, and it's a literacy event. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, how about I just create something for younger kids? This is like a K-5 event for little kids to promote literacy for kids who live around the Boys and Girls Club. And Ron, we have been talking a lot about the 7 habits and how that curriculum has been used up and down for everyone. I said, oh, well, how about I just create something for the younger kids as well? So that's part one. Part two, I was on a podcast 2 days ago, and the podcast host had purchased that same book from 13 years ago and asked me questions from the book. And so we talk a lot about not necessarily always having to create something new, but using what you already have, frameworks that are already good, and just building upon the work that you've done and not forgetting the work that you've done. So
Yeah, I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're quick to do the new thing. Like I think back, and my mom sent me a video of my nephew playing with a pinball machine. And it's so funny because it was my pinball machine when I was 5. And it's still in great shape, still functions 42 years later.
Mm-hmm.
That's like that old idea in that old book that y'all had. And you think that it's tired, but the new people ain't never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The new folks ain't never heard of that pinball machine that, like he loves this thing. I'm going to show it to you because I think it's relevant, right? So he loves playing with this daggone thing. I ain't seen this machine in years, but for my nephew, this is the best thing he done had this week. Right? He is happy with this thing. So, me, I went and looked it up. I'm like, what is this thing? I found a box and I looked it up on eBay. They selling this thing for $300 now. It's more valuable now than what it was in 1983 when it came out. I'm like, when I get home, I'm selling this. No,
Listen, 1983 was a great year. I'm just saying.
Hey, look, I was 5 at that time. I had that little game. It was the happiest thing I ever had, right? But it shows that just like that toy, our intellectual property, it passes from one generation to another.
Yep.
Right? You talked about it in 2013, but there's a whole group of girls that weren't of age in 2013 that need that same message today. If you're talking about the Game Changing Assist book, right? Like they need that message today with all the twerking and nonsense that's out there. I would rather them dribble a basketball than dribble their behinds.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, nothing against it. Dance, enjoy your life, but hey, there's other things. So I think we need more role models in that way. So don't give up on your IP because you've moved on. That doesn't mean it's not relevant. Again, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was first published in 1995. They're still teaching the same courses and trainings in 2025, 30 years later.
Yep.
Right? That one IP has done $8 billion since 1995. $8 billion in sales. Right? So high five, Ange, way to revisit your old stuff. Bring it back to life, man.
Yeah.
Old school Impalas, 63 Impala, they put some shine on that joint and it's worth way more.
Absolutely.
You get a classic Harley, some Jordan 1s. Jordan 1s are the most popular Jordan sold today.
Yes. Yeah. I wish I would have kept my old sneakers because my feet went back down in size after they grew. After kids, they went back down, and I gave those shoes away. Now I bought like 6 new pair. That's my favorite pair. Jordan
That's
1.
it. The ones are back in style. You know, they're the most popular ones, and they came out at
Mhm.
85, right? Lawrence, what's up?
Okay. Yes. So yesterday I had two great wins. I went on two podcasts back to back. Then after that, I sent out some more pitches, and I have another interview lined up on Sunday. What else happened? Yeah, yesterday was a really busy day for me, which was great. And
Oh,
this
that's
morning I
incredible.
also went on a virtual summit.
Cool. No, that's incredible, dude. Keep doing the good work, Lawrence. For those that don't know, Lawrence is one of our speaker scholars. He has access to all the SpeakerHub's tools and services for free in order to keep being the example we want young people to follow. So high five to Lawrence for the work that he's doing. Any other wins? Anybody else? Jadika, Kevin? Go ahead,
I
Jadika.
got booked to speak Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, to a youth trade group. Maybe about 25 minority students that are learning electronics.
Oh, that's
So
cool, man. High five. You know?
that's going to be during this time. So I'm gonna miss Tuesday because it's at this exact time.
Oh, hey man. Well, look, we would rather you be there, right? You're having more impact there than here. So go there, and if you got to miss every one of them to keep giving them speeches, miss everyone. We'll check in with you on the outside. You can do like Jasmine do. Jasmine be sending me messages. I'm not gonna be there tomorrow, but here's my wins, right? So you can send them in early, and we'll report them for you. Janika,
To let you know, update from the excuse me, from the referral that Angela sent. I got invited to do a second presentation for the second part of the group. So I'll be doing for both sessions. And they were three different people who I'll be presenting for. And that's going to be interesting for me in terms of dealing with transformation, leadership transformation from a healing perspective, because that's what they're asking for. So I'm going to have fun trying to create this and make this work, because this will be really getting my feet wet to get back on the speaking trail again. So again, I say thank you.
you are the example. We're gonna start calling Jadika the blueprint, right? Because she just follows the yellow brick road. Like she don't deviate from it. He said do podcasts. So I'm gonna do podcasts. He told me the podcast would turn into associations, and they turn it into this. And here it is. Like she has infinite patience with the process, right? And that's what we all need. Like all of our goals can be achieved given enough time, right? Because we've seen other people do it. Like it's not like we don't see other people speaking or building businesses or building a similar business. They already did it. They just had more time at it, right? They have unseen skills that we don't know about, right? Most people don't know about my background as a financial advisor. So I can do some analysis that other people may have never learned. Right. I was a manager for an insurance company. So I view risk in business a bit different than other people. So I know some different risk assessments that I can do that most people don't know. So it's unfair for someone who's trying to compete with me when they don't know all the tools I got in my back pocket. Y'all see me and Ange. Y'all don't see the other 42 people. Right. Ange sees 20 and a half of those people. She don't even get to see all 20 of them. The other 22 work with me privately as contractors. So we don't know what the other person is dealing with. But at the same time, they don't know what tools you have, which becomes your competitive advantage also. Is that fair? So, go at your own pace, but go, right? And comparison is the thief of joy. So don't just go. Set your goals and go, right? So any other wins before I get into my little topic for the day? I got a pretty cool topic today that I think needs to be addressed more readily, especially for speakers, right? So,
I got another one.
oh, go ahead. Yep.
So this one is based on when I was here 2 days ago, and you're mentioning branding. it led me to realizing how I could professionalize my Instagram page. So having testimonials, reviews, a highlight of my speaking clips, a highlight of me being on podcast, that's positioned me a lot more as an authority. And since I've done that, I've noticed I have been getting more responses to my emails. That could just be coincidence, but I do make my name is also my social media handle, so they likely found it that way.
Yeah, man. I mean, just keep again. There's no silver bullets, but there's 1,000 golden BBs. Right? There's no one thing that's gonna blow up everything, but there's a lot of little bitty stuff that you don't even think about, right? And that's where the wins happen. But I want to get into this because I think it's very interesting. And there's a transition that happens that for most speakers, the speaking business is their first business. So most speakers were highly intelligent people, either lifelong students, meaning that they have a couple doctorate degrees or something, and they're sharing their research, or they had some type of corporate experience, and then they're transitioning from corporate into their first business, which is speaking. Does anybody disagree with that? Right? But there's a big problem in that transition that nobody ever discusses. When you have a corporate job, somebody hands you your responsibilities and what you need to do on a daily basis. And if nobody gives you things to do, you're not really required to go and create things to do. You got to kind of stay in that corporate box of what's been delegated to you by your team lead. If you're the team lead, you're creating things and you're following whatever your person above you is telling you to do. You're creating directives. But most of us come from an environment in corporate where things were delegated to us. We didn't have to go and create the opportunity. As I like to say in business, we weren't balance sheet or income statement accountable. Does that make sense? Meaning that if you worked in analytics, you don't know how much your work actually affects the revenue of the company. You don't know how it affects the debt of the company or any of those things. One moment, the boss is knocking. Ingresas, vem. Despacio. Bajas despacio and empuje. Siga. Sí. Okay. Two comas?
So cute.
Ok, pero ¿cómo es después? Estoy en visita, ok? Saludos. Okay. All right. She don't want to eat her breakfast, so she's. Sí, después comiendo, estoy en visita. Gracias. Hey, 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 hey. No ser grosero, okay? Gracias. All right. So most of us are not balance sheet accountable or income statement accountable. But when you become an entrepreneur, guess what? Balance sheet and income statements become your first accountability. We ain't making no money, or we can't pay the bills this month, or my savings is going down. Now, let me just get a little technical. Income statement accountability is about revenue generated. Balance sheet accountability is how much savings do I still got to survive the next month? Because on the balance sheet is where your savings is. On the income statement is where the revenue is of the company. When you first start off, you don't have a lot of revenue, so you're watching your assets deplete on your balance sheet, called your checking account. You never had to worry about that at a job because it constantly got replenished every week, every 2 weeks, every 1st and 15th, or whatever your payment schedule was. When you come over into the business world, all of a sudden you're introduced to this accountability, right? So what ends up happening is by default, you try to push the accountability onto other people. So a lot of business owners say, well, I'm going to hire a salesperson. You ever sold before? No, but I'm going to hire somebody who's going to sell and they're going to grow my business. And they hire a marketing agency and they upset 2 months later. Man, I paid them $2,000 a month and they didn't get me nothing. Right? Why? Because even though you delegated the responsibility to that person, you didn't understand what to hold them accountable to. Does that make sense? How can I tell if Valencia is doing a good job if I don't know really what Valencia is supposed to be doing? Valencia can sell me that dream. Well, the stats say if you do this and you TikTok like this, you're going to end up you're going to have 100,000 followers in 60 days. Well, Valencia, can you show me anybody who ever did that? No, but I can do it for you. Okay. Now, Valencia don't know no better, so she delegates this responsibility, pays for this agency services that has no accountability. Is that fair?
Yep.
So then we say, well, they sold me a dream. Well, they ain't really delivered. Right? Now, they may have told you, hey, it takes 6 months, but since your balance sheet don't support paying them for 6 months, you put pressure on them for them to perform in 60 days. And then you say they don't work. But no. They told you it was going to take 6 months to figure it out. Is this making sense? So then we try somebody else. Somebody else sells us another dream. Well, okay, see, they told you to do social media. What you needed to be doing was cold email. And then you go pay for that. And yeah, they told you to do email, but you really need a funnel. You see, your website is all right, but it don't have the diggly ding thing on the front, and it don't have the trickety thing down here. So that's why it ain't going to ching at night for you. And it's like, no, it got all that. I ain't got no traffic. Ain't nobody visited the website. The website looks great. Ain't nobody coming to this joint. Now, why does this all go back to the job? It goes back to the job because at the job, you didn't have accountability for the things that you need accountability for in business. You had accountability for your little bitty set of tasks that were delegated to you. When you become an entrepreneur, now you are responsible for marketing. You're responsible for sales. You're responsible for legal. You're responsible for operations. You're responsible for HR. You're responsible for all these things that you don't know. And you get a disease called synthetic genius. My first cousin and uncle, I don't know if he was my uncle or my first cousin. He's so much older than me, I always called him my uncle. But in reality, he was my first cousin. He was the CFO for Lipton and the director for PepsiCo Worldwide for supplier diversity. And he said, Ron, the biggest thing you're ever going to run into, your biggest problem will be something called synthetic genius. Now, he's a Harvard Business School grad, all the experience in the world. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, because you gave yourself the title of CEO, you're going to think, can't nobody tell you SHIT about your business. And I said, you're right, because I already do that. I already do that. You know, I talk to somebody that don't market. I'm like, yeah, that's different. They ain't going to work for my business. But maybe it will. I don't know enough. They're a specialist. I talked to the accounting person. Yeah, I understand. Wait. Ain't no such thing as creative accountant, bro. You're going to go to jail. You can have a creative lawyer. You don't want a creative accountant. Accounting has standards that are already set for your accountant to be held accountable. That's why it's called accounting. You should be able to verify all of the stuff. Is this making sense? So as entrepreneurs, we have to learn our first skill before even learning to sell is accountability. And I'm going to tell you when it comes up. We let you all report your own stuff here, and we're proud of it. Never once have you ever heard me say, I did this for Jadika. I did this for Jasmine. Kevin wouldn't be nothing without SpeakerHub. We ain't never heard us say that. Why? Because the accountability falls back on you guys. If you don't send them pictures, guess what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So when you win, I want you to talk about what you did for yourself. How'd you make yourself win? Because if you can't take responsibility for Kevin wanting to get on more stages or Jadika wanting to get on more stages, why the hell should I? I don't care that much about nobody's business but my own. And sometimes I don't care about this one. I'd rather play with my daughter than go to work most of the time. So that accountability is really important in making that transition. And it's what I found to be the difference between the guys that I look up to that have shared time with me and me. I'd be like, oh yeah, they just a lot more accountable to more things than I am. And one guy asked me this question. He said, do you think you're more disciplined than the people that are doing worse than you? Will we all agree to that? Are we probably more disciplined than people that are struggling? Right? Anybody disagree with that? Right? So I was proud. Yeah, heck yeah, I'm more disciplined. And you know what he told me? Crushed my little heart. He said, that means the people that you look up to are more disciplined than you. So it all just comes down to accountability. How disciplined and accountable you want to be to the results that you're getting. Accountability requires you to know first where you are and where you want to be. We call that a difference. This minus this equals the difference in math. Same thing works in accountability. My skill needs to be here to get to this number income-wise. My skills are currently here. I got to make up that gap. Either I got to go get the training for the gap, or I got to get the tools, or I got to get an employee that can fill in the gap. But I got to make up that gap. And whose responsibility is it? Mine. I want to address this because I talked to a bunch of speakers. I used to talk because I canceled all my meetings now, right? But I used to talk to a bunch of speakers who wanted to make their speaking career our accountability. What's the ratio of bookings we're going to get if we work with you? I don't know. Can you promise me how many speaking gigs? Cool. If you're Barack Obama. If you're Donald Trump, I got a 100% booking rate with Donald Trump and Barack Obama, Michelle, and anybody else that's famous. Give me The Rock. I'll book The Rock on every podcast. Nobody will say no. I'll book them on one and it'll turn into 10 because they'll tell their friends. But most speakers, their arrogance and their lack of accountability don't allow them to deal with that. Maybe you ain't that famous. Maybe you ain't that good yet. When I take your speech and I put it in the chat GPT and I rank you before I meet with you, I know who I'm talking to. I'm more prepared than what you are. You gave me 30 questions of answers about you and your speaking business. So I was able to look you up and do a grade on how good you were. But yet you come with the level of arrogance. So there's no accountability. Right? So here are the 5 things that I believe a speaker has to be accountable for in order to get booked. I wanted to tell that whole story because if you understand these 5 things, then you'll never be dependent on somebody else. And you'll never be able to say someone took advantage of you or they did me wrong, right? So here are the 5 things. And I labeled them the 5 things we don't control at SpeakerHub because that's how important it is to me to make sure that we let y'all know this is y'all stuff. Why am I responsible for your stuff? The first thing is your topic, right? Who picked your topic that you talk about, Janika?
The presenter picked the topic.
Yeah, but your area of expertise, who picked that?
I did.
Yeah. You got to pick what you talk about. If you want to talk about DEI, that's your responsibility. If you want to talk about accounting, that's your responsibility. You want to talk about sales, that's your responsibility, right? You want to talk about transgender rights, that's your responsibility. How can someone else guarantee you that you're going to get booked based on the topic Janika chose? Is that fair? What's the second thing you control? Valencia, did you go to college?
I did. Uh-huh.
Did they give you your major?
No.
Yeah, you chose it, right?
Yeah.
So your credentials, you chose, right?
Yep.
Are you qualified to coach a basketball team?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Right? Why? Because your credentials say you don't do that, right?
Right. No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Well,
But who chose your credentials? You. But if
I
you wanted to coach basketball like Edge, what would you have to do? Fill in that gap in your trainings.
right. I have to get that skill.
Yeah. So if you're a new speaker and you're competing for a stage that experienced speakers have credentials of already speaking to 8 associations on that topic, who do you think is more likely to get that gig based on their credentials?
Them.
Yeah. So we got to be accountable to our credentials. Maybe I need more experience. Maybe I need to go on more podcasts and more smaller gigs to build up my experience so I can get the dream gig down the road. Don't put that on me or some other booking agent. We don't care that much. Okay. 2 comments? Okay. Okay. Hasta luego. Hey. Okay. Settle. So, but do you see what I mean? That credentials thing is important because we don't want to hear that maybe we're not good enough. But we all started there. Right? I can't imagine LeBron James saying, "Hey, yo, I ain't playing basketball until they pay me." Bro, you 7. Like you're 7 years old in the 3rd grade. What are you talking about? You ain't playing basketball anymore until they pay you. If you don't keep playing for the next 13 years, they will never pay you. Right? Tennis, same thing. Golf, same thing. Bowling, being an engineer. Imagine a 4th grader saying, I'm an engineer now because I declared myself an engineer. And he mad because he ain't getting engineering jobs. He ain't got the credentials yet. Am I lying? I want to make sure we talk about the right things. This is important. This is the thing that the industry is missing: accountability. That's why we show our work, because we want to show our credentials. We want to show what we've done at SpeakerHub so you can move without doubt. Not some dream that I'm not going to be able to help you to fulfill. So the next thing, Willie, when you choose to send a message out or choose to take a speaking gig, who forced those gigs on you? Or did you get to choose the gigs who going to be in the audience?
I get to choose it. I get
Yeah,
to
you get to choose it.
what's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're choosing an audience that may not want to hear what you got to say, right? I saw a thing the other day where there was a lady who was she was a masculinity coach. And we like, how's she gonna teach this? Now look at Kevin's face. Even like I can see Kevin's face in the group chat. How's she teaching this? Right? But I didn't get to choose her audience. I didn't get to choose her topic. And if her business is taking off, high five. If it's not, I understand why. Right? I can't imagine being a femininity coach. I would be broke because all the women would act like me. This loud, boisterous asshole. I don't want to date her. That's all they would say. Right? But that's the cool thing about it. We get to choose our topic, we get to work on our credentials, and we get to choose our audience as speakers. This is really important. Why? Because we also get to choose our availability. A lot of people, when they have kids at the house, they lock their doors so their kids can't come in their office and tell mama don't let them bother them. No, my kids can always come in. I get to choose that. Just like you get to choose, Jasmine, if you want to fly to Timbuktu to give a talk in front of a certain audience that's looking for people with your qualifications that may want to talk about reenacting the Thriller in Manila or whatever, because you work with Linux. You get to choose if you want to go do that. How can that be my responsibility? The speaking place wanted you to come speak on this date, but you're going to be on vacation with your family. So it's our fault you didn't get booked? And your fees. You choose how you get paid, guys. You pick your fee. If your fee is, I had one reason why we got rid of fees. I had a client that told me I only take $10,000. And I did the meeting for him. We walked through everything. And the person says, our budget is 7,500. And I said, no, he only accepts 10,000. So I declined. Get on the call the next day. So, man, what happened with the meeting? Is it all set up? No, they only had 7,500. Okay, well, just tell them I'll take it. Oh, no, I told him you said it was 10,000. You said you didn't want us pitching anything under 10,000. That was your minimum. Man, for that one, I would have taken that. All right, bro. No more of us dealing with that anymore. We won't negotiate anybody else's fees. Do it on your own. Be accountable for yourself. Speak for yourself. So this is the origin story of where we are with SpeakerHub. These are the 5 things that introduce accountability into the speaking business. You picked your topic, you picked your credentials, you picked your audience, you picked your availability, and you picked your fees. Don't ask me what my booking rate is. Go find out what yours is based on your topic, your credentials, your audience, your availability, and your fees.
Mm-hmm.
Go send some pictures and find out how much does people book me as Judika if considering these 5 things. Why? Because Jasmine, her 5 things may be different, so her ratios won't matter. My speaking fees are negative. I pay to get on stage. 90% booking rate. Every speaking gig I offer money to, they take it. Is that fair for me to say, well, Jasmine, you come over here, your booking rate gonna be 90%. 90% of the people you pitch, they gonna book you. And Jasmine will say, well, what do they pay? I say, no, you gotta pay them. She gonna say, dude, I don't want that job. That ain't what I signed up for. I'm gonna lose all this money to go give this speech. You ain't tell me that. So I go back into it to say that figures don't lie, but liars can figure. Don't ask us to lie to you. I won't lie to you to make a sale. I'm not going to promise you you're going to get this gig or that gig and people who do this. No, we talk very general. Every 53 minutes, somebody gets a meeting with an event planner at SpeakerHub. That's where we stop. We're very clear in saying that. Such and such set up a meeting with the event planner. Whatever they negotiate depends on those 5 things. I'm not involved in that. Is that fair? Now, why is that cool? Because if you could accept those 5 things, you will be top 5% speakers in the world. Because 95% of speakers don't want to accept that they're responsible for those 5 things. They want someone to sprinkle speaking gigs on them. Take responsibility for my topic, my thing, my fees, my audience. You make it happen for me. Anybody handing out dreams? I come from East St. Louis. You out your damn mind. You got no dreams to hand out. I hand my own stuff to dream before I give it to you. Yeah, they said if you can talk on this topic, I'm gonna keep that for myself and give you the little one. Don't forget, I'm a speaker too. Like, don't get it mixed up. Right? Jasmine.
Speaking about fees, I was listening to Myron Golden this weekend. I tune him in every now and again. And, I think he was talking about a conversation that Jim Rohn had with someone, and you probably, because you're a Jim Rohn guy too as well. And apparently the person said, I only make this much. He works at a company, you might know, I only make this much. And I think Jim Rohn probably says, yeah, you only make that much because that's what you've allowed them to pay you. In other, he says, do you have other people in your companies that get paid higher? And he said, yes. So here goes the point. When we go out there with fees, I don't care if somebody wants me to come free. A free event got me a paid event yesterday. Yep. And that's how I look at it. And I use the analogy all the time. You're teaching us, to not give us a fish or give us a gig here and there. Fantastic. You can give me a gig if you want to, but I'm not coming here looking for you to give me a gig. You're teaching us how to fish. And I use that with my kids.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Money ain't the only form of currency. Sometimes you get paid with more gigs. Sometimes you get paid in lieu with other bartering things. right? Sometimes you get paid with opportunity and relationships, right? Everybody, the most popular speaking gig in the world is a free gig. It's called a TEDx talk. Everybody tell me I only get paid to speak, yet they'll do a free TEDx. They'll pay you 10 grand to do a TEDx. Can you give me a TEDx? I'll give you $10,000. You can find me a TEDx talk. But yet they get paid to speak. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, all of this stuff is flexible, but we've given this mirage that this person only does this and that. You know, we had a speaker that spoke for us, and their fees are pretty high. And someone came to me and said, yeah, you know, I hired such and such to do this for me, and I paid them this. I said, cool. But it's the same speaker I've worked with before, right? I've worked with a lot of these guys. So I've worked with these guys before, and they're just bragging about their fee. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't pay nothing. So high five. We got the same thing, right? So everything is negotiable. Just know that. If you can figure out what you want on the other side, if they make it available to you and it's worth it, you should take the opportunity. Is that fair? Right? So the 5 things that as speakers we're responsible for: our topic, our credentials, our audience, our availability, and our fees. If I had to add one more, it would be effort. The speakers that put forth effort to book themselves get booked based on our data that we have 7 times more than the speakers that wait in our directory. Jasmine, how long were you in our directory?
Your directory?
You were in SpeakerHub beforehand with HRPA, right?
Yes, from HRPA. Yeah.
Right.
So,
And what, for over a year or so?
Yes,
How long?
about a year. Yeah.
Right? How many gigs did you get from when you were just in the directory?
Oh, none. Except somebody wanted me to do something on LinkedIn.
Okay.
They got me
Right.
from there.
Since you've been doing your own proactive pitching with SpeakerHub Pro.
Tons. You know what I had to do? You might probably spank me for that, because I had to kind of pause a couple of days pitching, because everyone that I talked to wanted to be, in this first part. I'm thinking they like to, I do the interview. I think they like to push it out a bit. I like to see the fish down the road, May, June, July, but they all want it now. So I just kind of page like tons. I've got speaking engagements from the very first time. I think I think I stalked you, and we finally signed me up in December, and I used stalked because I did, and then I started. You said to me, I mean, I'm a student. I'm here. This is your thing, and you're teaching me how to fish. And you said, just pitch, pitch, pitch. And boy, did I pitch. But then I learned how to kind of, it was flattening in, and I was getting some, and you learn the system, and you know what to do now. And it's very consistent. I mean, I've got paid gigs. I got a gig from SpeakerHub that offer $3,500 in October to do corporate training in Calgary, Alberta. And everything is here. If I were to sit and just be on the straight platform, the directory, you're like a sitting duck, waiting and hoping that somebody would see you and like the way you look, or like what's under your bottom, and to kind of give you a gig. So that wasn't doing it for me. This is doing it for me.
100%. No, we're glad to have you here.
Thank
Here's
you.
what Jasmine was talking about, right? So Maria is always building frameworks based on our conversations here, right? And this is one that she came up this week to talk about our we talk about 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 quarters, right? But when you are reaching out to a podcast or a media outlet, you can expect to have that podcast published or be in that article within 2 months. It may be 2 weeks, but it could be 2 months, right? For an association, it's going to be at least 2 months out, 2 to 5 months on an association. If you're pitching them in April, they already got their speaker for April and May. You may come speak there in June. Valencia, when you went to the co-working place, did they bring you in the next week, or did they tell you you can start in June or July?
Yeah, they said June and July.
Yep. Right. Again, we have the evidence, so we just share with y'all what we learned from our done for you clients. Right. This here, it's 6 months out. Right. there's a report I'll show you. From this report actually has some interesting data that I think is, let me see if I can find it. 1 second here. It was HubSpot. Let me see. Let me find it first. Let me stop the share. But some of this data was interesting, but it backed up what we're talking about. Some of their stuff I don't agree with, but a lot of it I do. So I'll bring up the parts that I do agree with. Let's see if I can find it here. All right, so let me skip down to the part I want to show you. Because we talk about the, like, how far ahead should you be getting booked? Let me show you. Let's see. I think I may have passed it. One moment. All right, so, and we found this to be true too. So I don't mind sharing this stat because I know that it's true, right? So half of event organizers planning in-person events said they usually booked 2 to 6 months before their event. 47% said they do it 6 months to a year ahead. And 3% said that they look longer than a year out. But here's the great thing. 78% said it's at least 4 months out. That's 2 quarters. You see that? Right? It's at least 2 months out. That's 78% of the people who were surveyed said that, yeah, they're looking at least 4 months out for Speakers for Live events, right? So just know that if you follow the thing that we shared with you here, if you're trying SpeakerHub or you're trying to use SpeakerHub and you're saying, I want to use it for a week to see if I'm going to get a gig, you're wasting your time, right? You got to be held accountable to the booking schedules. They're booking 6 to 9 months ahead. So if you're reaching out in April, you're booking for 2026. Give you one of the best examples. Over the last 2 months, I've met with over 600 people face to face. I did 15 meetings a day for the last 2 months. The number one thing is, well, I need to have I want to do 5 gigs a month this year. And I'm like, well, how many do you have on this calendar? I only got 2 on the calendar so far. Cool. Well, what's your 2026 goals? Because I ain't even gonna promise you 5 gigs, but you're not even gonna get any conferences that are inside of November. Does that make sense? Like, we got to know our scheduling cycles if we're going to be getting booked on stages. Like, trying to move conferences up here is the wrong move. It's the wrong move. You got to be doing something. Pitch these, but be doing these in the meantime. That's what Jadika has mastered. That's what Jasmine has mastered, going on podcasts and turning them into gigs, right? Being seen there and turning those into conferences. This is the business, guys, but it all starts with personal accountability. So that's my TED Talk for the day. Any questions, any comments about this? I think it's one of the most misunderstood things as entrepreneurs is who's accountable for our business. The revenue side, which is the income statement, and the balance sheet side, which is our savings is going down while we're waiting. And if we do things out of order, you will run out of money while you're trying to only pitch conferences. Unless you got a year of money saved, how are you going to survive until January when that conference comes up? The conference I booked yesterday is in October. That it ain't next month. So if I needed that money next month, I am screwed. I don't take out my screwdriver and put it you know where, because that's what just happened. I'm not balance sheet accountable. Right? Jasmine, go ahead.
In doing that, I feel two things. So from the podcast that I did, remember, I think I told you about a podcast, and this guy only claimed he only spoke to corporate executive. He's called the Business Roundtable. And so I did a podcast with him, was really happy, wanted me to come back. But now we're doing a LinkedIn Live at 2 p.m. this afternoon, if anyone wants to come and see us there at 2 p.m. this afternoon. And I understand marketing and sales because I want other people, and they're taking these podcasts and they're spreading me all over the place because I know the numbers, the two things in getting successful is your marketing. It could be the number one. So this is all marketing for me. I'm not looking at the dollar size. I'm like, okay, this guy has his network of how many people, and he wants me to, I'm a guest on his round table, and I just finished doing a podcast and he's asking me to do something else. Sooner or later, something's going to come out of that. But what I wanted to ask you guys, because when working with Lennox, we were never on social media a lot. We tried to hide from everybody because we don't want anybody to stalk us and ask us information that they're not supposed to get. So building my network now, as I told you on LinkedIn, and I think I'm YouTube and LinkedIn only, and my Facebook is personal. But I keep getting from the minute these podcast hosts start putting me out there, and they launch their own podcast and they speak in length about, my expertise and what I do and how valuable it is. I am getting, which I have not even, I said, if this is money coming in, people from all over want to be as a client for a speaking engagement. And honest to God, I haven't really even, I think I've only responded to the Calgary one, which is a paid gig. So these podcasts, you don't know where the reach is, and you don't know from one podcast how many people are going to do. And this literally needs an assistant to go and send out my information to all these people, the request from me for all these people. I literally need an assistant to do it. It's just blowing up my phone every day.
Yeah. So, I think you can find an assistant to do it, but what I would do is do the same thing you did with pitching.
Yeah.
Take 30 minutes in the morning and dedicate it just to that.
Okay.
You'll be surprised if you just took 30 minutes without any distractions and says, I'm only going to reply to my emails for these 30 minutes. How many of those replies you'll get back out? Right. Now, remember, all of those responses, whose fault is it?
Too much, like 10. I opened my phone.
Yeah, I know, but just set 30 minutes in the morning to reply to them. I would do 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you something. Whose fault is that?
Moi.
It's yours. Yeah. It's your effort. It wasn't SpeakerHub's effort. It was your effort. This screwdriver ain't never put together a desk in my house. I had to use the screwdriver. Right? I wish this thing would take credit for all the toys I done put together. It's made it easier, but it ain't the reason that these toys got put together. Right? So high five on that. Andrea, I saw your hands was up and then it went down. You still got a question or comment?
Hi, I'm here. I was leaving my car and entering the house. I found this to be incredibly useful. Thank you so much. And I wanted to share a point about, or ask a question about, my previous business model had been being contracted out by agencies that would then market me as their speaker. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could speak a little bit to that as a strategy, if you will, if you can. Only because, first of all, I realize how much money I have left on the table just from not having my systems and infrastructure in place to have an upsell or to a continuous sell. And in our first intake conversation, what you said was, speaking is the bus stop, not the bus station. So that was very helpful to me. So for example, being contracted out by an agency to do speaking engagements, like my keynote speech could be $1,000, right? And I was arrogant about it because I was like, what do you mean? It cost me, all this time and all this money for me to get this education. Certainly you can pay me more than that, but I did it anyway. and it was always very useful, but then I didn't have the upsell. So
Mhm.
anyway, if you have any comments or thoughts on being contracted out by agencies to speak, you know, relevant to the context at which that agency is operating, like education in my case,
Yeah,
I'd
I
be
mean,
grateful to hear.
well, your agency is just your assistant. They're just your virtual assistant in reality. They're doing the same thing that a person that you would have hired in-house would do. They use software similar to ours. They reach out, they send emails, they try to get you booked. No different than a virtual assistant. Does that make sense? The only difference is that they're more specialized than somebody you would find on Upwork or some other virtual assistant site. So
I-
you go
Mhm.
ahead.
Sorry, I should specify. The agency was not the Speakers Bureau. It was a cooperative education services company or organization that services a region in
Yeah,
New
I mean,
York.
but even then, they're
Mhm.
just a booking. They're just your assistant booking you gigs. That can be done outsourced, like you're doing, or it can be done in house. So what's the question behind the question? Because when I look at those things, I look at them as the same, right? Like Michelle is here. Michelle works for Ann McNeil. She's doing the same outreach services that the other company is doing. The only difference is that Michelle is on a salary doing it, where the other company, they're taking the salary and then they're just giving you whatever they want to pay you. They may get paid $5,000 for that speaking gig. They're only giving you 1,000,
Right. That's true.
right?
I actually did the math. They got $6,000 once, and I think I got 600.
Yeah, but that's what they
But
do. So,
it was a
but
failure and a good failure on my part because I realized it
hold
after
on, watch this.
that. Mhm.
Let's go back to our teaching because this is really important. What are the 6 things?
Oh,
The,
yeah. It's a
what
lesson learned, right? Mhm.
which part did you outsource? Did you outsource the topic? Nope. Did you outsource the credentials? Nope. Did you outsource the audience? Nope. The availability? Nope. Your fees? Nope. You chose to choose the $1,000. You outsourced the effort.
Subconsciously. And here's why, because somebody told me I should register with them and I did. And all my goal was to register with them. So I felt successful because they accepted me and I have a, the possibility of making $18,000, a year with the agency. So I was like, oh, that's great. That's money. Let me do that. Not thinking about what it could lead to. So it was a short game play in a long game.
Oh yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with it if it's getting you on stages and it's helping you to accomplish your goals in the short term, right? What I'm saying is we all have our choices to outsource different things, right? But the effort, if you outsource the effort, that's the hardest part. So they're going to take most of the money. The speakers that I know that are with big bureaus, and a lot of the speakers that are on the bureau that we talked about, I think when we're on our call, I know those guys. Like those guys are my customers too, right? I've worked with them personally. So I know whether they're getting booked or not over there. Because if they were, they wouldn't come to me. They would have never found me if they were happy where they were. Right. So the moral of the story is whenever you outsource the effort, the person, if that's the hardest part, they're going to take the majority of the money because that's the part that you're avoiding. So the obstacle is the way. The thing that you're avoiding is probably the thing you need to learn the most. The thing that you're the weakest at is probably the skill you need to step up the most in order to raise everything around you. So if you're a really good speaker and you're really good at selling, but you don't like to get booked, you don't like to book yourself, somebody's going to notice your skills over here and take advantage of you. That's their job. Why? Because they have the opportunity. They're like, well, look, she don't want to do this part. I'll do this part. And that's all she want. Cool. Give her $1,000. We ain't got to tell her how much we got paid. Hey, yo, we got a gig for $1,000. And if you say, yeah, that's great. Guess what? You show up, you get that $1,000. They happy with their 6,000. You don't get paid what you're worth. You get paid what you negotiate, guys. So, Andrea, was it a bad decision? No. Could there have been a better
It was a
decision?
great decision.
Huh? I think you
It was a
froze up.
great place from the speaker bureau registration part. I didn't realize how much speaking was a business on its own. I thought speaking was part of my consulting engagements, right? It was something that people asked me to do because I'm a subject matter expert, and I was like, oh, this is great. I could get paid more. And then having to lean into it and look at it from the business meta level was interesting to me. So I don't regret it, but I wish that on the back end, I was more tactical with collecting my list and sending them to the right location to do an upsell.
Let me tell you the cool thing. My boy Darian tells me this all the time. Man, better you learned it today than when you was 50. Better you learned it today than when you was 65. He said it to me all the time. Man, I'm like, man, I figured this thing out. It's like, yeah, better today than then. Right? Because we all know somebody who's still trying to figure it out. And we learned it at an earlier age. We learned it. We could have kept doing the thing that we found out. And the sign of intelligence is when you're presented with new information, behavior also changes. That is the only sign of intelligence. When I'm presented with new information, my behavior changes. When I'm presented with new information and I keep doing the same thing, that's when we say, man, he's stupid. Man, she's stupid. She can't, I can't believe she stayed with him after all that. And she was presented with new information, but her behavior didn't change. Either she liked it or she's stupid. Or he liked it and he's stupid. Or they liked it. Or all the other pronouns. All the pronouns liked it and they stupid. Exactly. Feedback loops, right? But that's what we're looking at. So we got to be able to say, hey, I learned this lesson. That was my tuition. How do I go forward? Right? Lawrence. I think Lawrence may not be there.
You
All
able
right,
to hear
cool.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, my signal was going out.
Yeah,
So
it keeps going. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say that one thing that really has been standing out to me is often when I go on podcasts, they ask me, how do you find my email address? And then I mentioned SpeakerHub and the journey of not only how I got, the opportunity to use it, but what I was doing before. And they admire the fact that I put in the hard work to go out and pitch myself to people.
No, that's a big deal. I think we misunderstand what successful people respect. Right?
Yeah,
We understand how hard it is to get anything. So we totally be like, man, that dude put in the work. How can I not respect that?
yeah,
Like it's
and
hard to
then when
not
they
respect a person with a six pack. You know how hard
yeah,
it
and
is to
then
get
when
a
they
six pack? Even if we don't like him, we respect him. We're like, well, hey man, he did something right to get this six pack, right? It's like, dude, this is hard work. I'm walking around with a keg. I'm like, man, if I can get this down to a liter, this will be great. Yeah, I need 2 liters right next to each other, right? You know. But moral of the story, guys, it's effort. We got to be responsible for our own businesses. And the great thing is you're never going to be worse than what you are today. Today is another day to get better than what you were yesterday. And I want to have that conversation because I've learned working with a lot of business owners, startup entrepreneurs, those who take extreme accountability. I wish Bart was on here to talk about it because Bart, I'm with him being a military leader, right? He could talk about extreme accountability, right? And that's the difference. Those who say, you know what, I'm here because of because of the decisions I made yesterday. The decisions I made in 2024, determine my 2025. The pitches you will send in 2025 will determine the number of speaking gigs you will have in 2026. Once June comes around, there are no more conferences available in 2025. So you're pitching from June forward into 2026. So if you got goals to do more conferences and more things like that in 2026, you better get your butt to work in the next 6 weeks. Because January speaking gigs are booked in June. Summer bodies are made in the winter. Okay, that's what I hear on Instagram all the time.
That is so true.
You know, I'm trying to get a summer body. I'm stuck over here with spring rolls. It ain't working, you know? So any other questions before we head off for today? I thought this was a really, really, really important conversation to have because it's probably one of the most impactful conversations that someone ever had with me, right? So I'm going to ask you one question as we go. What is the common denominator of success?
Effort and consistency. I know I'm cheating. I gave you two.
Oh, no, that's fine. Effort and consistency. Okay.
Or consistent effort. How about that? Consistent effort.
Right? Consistent effort. That's good.
Taking action.
I like that.
Taking
I like
action.
persistent.
Yep. That's one of them. I'm gonna share something with you. This is something that was written in this guy named Albert Gray wrote this in, I think, 1912 or something. Long time ago. I mean, like a really long time ago. Right? And I'm going to share it with you so that you all can read it on your own. And he summed it all up. He wrote a whole paper that could have been summed up in one thing. And this was presented to me 25 years ago, around this time when I was applying at Northwestern Mutual. And we had to go through this and like read the whole 4 pages or whatever and kind of do a report on it. But this is what he said. The common denominator of success, right, for every whatever, design, student, speaker, or whatever, who's ever been successful lies in the fact that the person has formed the habit of doing things that other people don't like to do. But he went a little deeper, and I want to go into it so that you can kind of understand what he's saying, because it doesn't, if you don't read the next part, it don't really make sense. And he says it's just as true as it sounds. It's just as simple as it seems. You can hold it up to a light, you can put it to an acid test, you can kick it around until it's worn out. But when you're all through with it, it still will be the common denominator of success, whether you like it or not. It will explain why people have come into SpeakerHub or became a speaker with every apparent qualification for success and then given us our most disappointing failures. We all know people that would be a great speaker, they never on stage, right? It explains why others have come in and achieved outstanding success in spite of many obvious and discouraging handicaps. We've all seen somebody like, man, how you a speaker and you stutter? They pitch more than the people who don't have the speaking impediment, right? But since it will also explain your future, it would seem to be a mighty good idea for you to use it to determine just what sort of future will you have. In other words, let's take this big, all-embracing secret and boil it down to fit to you. If the secret of success lies in forming the habits of doing things others don't like to do, let's start boiling it down. Let's start boiling down the process by determining what are the things others don't like to do. The things that others don't like to do are the very things that you and I and other human beings, including successful people, don't like doing. They ain't doing something different. They're doing the same thing. And they hate it just as much as we hate it. In other words, we've got to realize right from the start that success is something which is achieved by a minority of people and is therefore unnatural and is not achieved by following what normally we like or don't like, nor by being guided by natural preferences or prejudices. The things that others don't like to do in general are too many and too obvious for us to discuss here. And so, since our success can be achieved in speaking, let us move on. Watch this. I want to skip down to this part. Let's see. Basically, I'll send this to you because they've modified it. It wasn't about design students, so it's messing me up when I go through it. Basically, what he's saying is, hey, the successful people make a habit of doing the things that other people don't like to do, including themselves. They hate prospecting also. They hate pitching also, but they make a habit of doing it because they're rewarded by pleasing outcomes more than pleasing processes. Let me tell you something. I'm going to give you something really quick. Everybody that comes to this call, I'm willing to bet that 90% of you all were pitching before you found SpeakerHub. You was going to pitch and get on stage, whether you used our tool or not. We just made it easier. You was just out there screwing in screws with your hand, and we gave you the screwdriver. Everybody done tried to screw in a screw. You can screw a screw in only to a certain point with your hand. You can get it started with your hand, but eventually you're going to need a screwdriver to help you go further. That's really important, guys, because it's based on the habits. That's why we did this call every day. Yeah, the IKEA effect, really important, right? That's why we do this call every day, to build a habit of just hopping on and sending your 25 pitches. Does that make sense? So the same thing that you don't like doing, the successful people don't like doing it either. They just kept doing it for longer. If you've been doing it for 6 months, they've been doing it for 6 years. Just keep going. And then eventually you'll be like Ann McNeil. She's flying around the world, but she has someone that's doing her pitching in spite of her being busy doing something else. I've been fortunate enough to have someone that can build software and run our marketing meetings and build all the tools and come up with designs. I didn't, when I first met Devin don't know Ron with 42 employees. Devin knows Ron that was in $50 co-working when I first bought this business, that was interviewing her on podcasts when I was trying to figure it out. Do you see what I mean? I just kept going and I became Ron, the SpeakerHub dude. But I wasn't Ron, the SpeakerHub dude, when I met Devin and Ange. It just takes time, guys. So I wanted to share that with you because that's something that's been impactful to me for 25 years. And when I used to think I was different or everybody else had an advantage, nah, they just made a habit of doing the shitty stuff. They eat the shit sandwich. That's all that it comes down to. Everybody else we still looking at the sandwich. No, just eat it because it ain't gonna taste no better. Right? So just send the pitches, get on more stages. The world is waiting for you, you know? Any other questions before we go? Let me put that link in the chat for those who want to read it. Let me find the one that's not around design. I don't know why that
And
design was weird.
also in the chat, I noticed Andrea said this site is not working for me. So I don't know what she's talking about. So you might.
Andrea, what's working? What's the problem?
Exhale with More, posted by Nicole. That website, when I clicked it or when I put it into my
From Jasmine.
Oh, was it
Oh
Jasmine?
yeah, I see it. Yeah, it went to Namecheap. Namecheap. They must have didn't pay their thing, Nicole. Oh, Nicole left. Yeah, that website, yeah, it went to Namecheap. Her name is Carmen, but Carmen got to pay her $14. Or either we may have misspelled it wrong. Right. We'll see if we can find it. Carmen Moore. Oh, my bad. I only sent it to Andrea. My bad. I tried to send it to everybody. There we go. There's the link to the EF Gray thing. It's one of my favorite things, you know. Yeah, I can't find the person that she tried to suggest to you. I looked her up on Google, couldn't find it. So, but any other questions, guys? Was this helpful?
Yeah, it was. I got some homework to do.
Yeah. Well, hey man, get on more podcasts, get more bookings, right? Let us know what we can help you with. But again, a couple. Say, Ron, go ahead.
Yes, Ron, thank you very much. I called in a little bit late at the beginning, so I didn't catch up everything you said, but I will listen to the recording. I just have one question. I think one of your guys here, one of the speakers, talked about an app, and you add another app for cutting the YouTube that you have on your podcast in pieces and see what is the percentage to the higher viewer. Can you share that with me again?
Yep. So I'm going to share one with you that is out here that we bought recently. You can find it on AppSumo. AppSumo is really, really good for this. It's called Taha or Taja, right? Depending on what country you're in. Oh, it's sold out. Are you kidding me? Oh, this sucks. Okay, this used to be available and you could do it, but you can go to Opus. Let's see, video clips. Maybe they have another one. I like AppSumo because it allows you to pay for something once and not have to pay for it again. Let's see. I'm trying to find one on here that I would recommend.
Hey, Ron, will you give more context to what AppSumo is?
AppSumo is a place you can get lifetime deals on software. So you could pay once and have access to it for life.
Okay.
Very similar to what you all did with SpeakerHub. Yep, I copied their model. We stole the idea. Turn long form videos into short clips. There it is right there. Reap. Just came out today. Viral clips in seconds. This is what you're talking about, say, Ron?
Yeah, it's like you remember when I had the talk with Les Brown? So I just want to cut it in pieces to see which one is worth reposting again on my Instagram. You said Reap, REAP?
Yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. Yeah,
Okay.
it's Reap is what it's called, and it is lifetime. You can use it 5 hours a month. You can do 5 hours worth of video for $69, which is incredible.
Okay. So yeah, those are not free. Okay, I'll look at it.
Yeah, I mean, but here, wait a minute. There's a bunch of them out there. Opus, there's some other free ones, but they're going to be limited too. So usually some of the features that you're going to be able to, some of the features that are going to come with the paid version, you're going to eventually, you're going to have to pay for them anyway. I just was trying to eliminate a monthly bill, but I just put the free one in the group. Opus is that you can start for free. Eventually they do have a paid plan though. So Opus isn't 100% free. Eventually it becomes paid depending on how much stuff you want to do. They give you 60 credits per month. But if you want to do more, they do charge. Where I think Reap is lifetime, $69 one time. And again, I don't make any money off of this. I'm just sharing with you different tools that we found. They may have a free one too. Yeah, they may have a free plan. I just don't have the time to find it. Oh, pricing. Let's see.
Yeah, I will start there.
Oh,
Thank
they got
you
a free
so-
one too. Yeah, they got a free one too over here. You see that?
Yeah. Is that the second one? See, I am on the phone, so I don't see the screen clearly. What is this one?
It's the first one that I showed you on AppSumo. It's just in this thing instead. Here, just if you can open up the chat, or I'll text them to you. Say, Ron.
Please. Yeah, please. Thank you so
Right.
much because I'm like doing a million things at once. Thank you
Oh, no,
so
I
much,
got you.
Ron. You are the best. You are the best.
Yep. No problem. You should have them on your phone right now. All right. I just sent both links. That's one. Opus is the other one. Oh, it keeps putting up the same thing. 1 second. All right. Anything else, guys, before we head out?
Jasmine is going to be on LinkedIn Live at 2. And she was
Yeah,
trying
that's
to
it. It's
link
2
here.
o'clock Eastern or what time
Eastern.
zone? Okay.
Eastern.
So Jasmine gonna be on there in a couple minutes, 30 minutes.
And someone was asking me for the link. I was trying to post the link, but it's not working for some reason. So I guess I'd be able to join if they're my friends on it. It's 2 p.m. The
We
round table.
connected? Are we connected on LinkedIn, Jasmine? We better be.
Drop your
we are.
LinkedIn. Jasmine, drop your LinkedIn in the chat.
Yeah, okay. Okay, you asked me to do that really quick before Ron logs off, Angela? That's right.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. Take your time.
Take my time? Okay, I'll go do it then.
We don't have all day, but you got like 30 seconds.
More minutes.
Okay, let me go on it right now, right? Give me a minute.
Take your time, but we don't have all day.
You're making me nervous. Okay, I'm going to get into you 2 minutes. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I am going, here I'm over at LinkedIn. And then I'm going to find myself. And then I'm going to profile, copy this. I'm getting so good at these things. Oh my God. I'm so proud of myself. Copy. Then let me find you back now, Ron. Where are you now? All right, I'm going to paste it in the link. There you go. Wow, I did it.
There it is. Look at that. All right. No, we don't see it.
Yeah, it ain't there.
Oh, it went to
Didn't do it.
Angela straight. It went to Angela straight. I have you on there, Angela, instead of everyone. So it's supposed to be everyone. Do you see it now?
No.
You see
You
it
got
now?
yeah, we got it. I got it. I got you.
Okay.
It took me to your page. So all right, I just added you as a friend, but I don't know if that's gonna let me see what you're doing. But we'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out? If you want, I can go in my email and get the other one. Do you have time? It's 1:30.
Go ahead. I mean, keep going.
Let me go again. So if I go to my email, if I just share, right?
Hey, look. Well, hey, look. Let me wait. Don't do that. Let me tell you why. Because
Yeah.
you're gonna share the link that you got to log into, and then all of us gonna be on the daggone live with you, and we don't want to do that. we gonna all be in the producer room on the live, and the dude like, who gave the link to all of these folks to come in here to talk?
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm
but
good.
here's
I'm
what I
gonna
would
go-
tell you to do. When you go live,
Yeah.
we all got the link to your LinkedIn page.
Yes.
Make a post with it in the LinkedIn page. That way, at one, we can just go to your page and find that post and watch it.
So take a post. So what do I do now? Go to my page.
Yep, I'll show you.
Okay.
Right. So right here on my page, on your page or anybody else's page.
But go to my page so you can see what you're doing.
Well, I can't do it on your page because it's your
Okay.
page. Right. I can create a post.
Okay. Oh, yes. And say, watch me on LinkedIn Live.
Yep. Got it.
Okay.
And then put the link to the watch me on LinkedIn Live in there and we can check it out. All right.
Okay. All righty. If it doesn't go right, it's your fault. Ta-ta.
Oh yeah, it's all good. Talk to you later, guys. I'll take responsibility for that. I'll be accountable for that. All right, guys. Bye-bye.